What's up, YouTube? This is Pitmaster Perna coming at you from That Barbecue Life, and today we're talking slow smoked pulled pork. So today's our first episode, and we're talking slow smoked pulled pork. Now, the reason we're starting off with pulled pork is because it's probably the easiest beginner barbecue recipe. It's because pork shoulder is super forgiving. So if you make some little mistakes here and there, you're not in too much trouble. And in the end, it'll be a real crowd pleaser. Now, just a quick word about what we've already done. I pulled these pork shoulders out of the packaging, and I just gave them a little rinse because you want to get off any small bone fragments or anything like that that might have come from processing. After that, I laid it down on some paper towels to absorb a little bit of moisture as it drips off, and I dry brined it. What that's going to do is that's going to pull the moisture out of the inside of the pork butt, and when it seeps back in, it's going to bring a nice salty flavor with it. Also, it's going to dry out the exterior just a little bit, so that when we get it on the heat, we get a nice outer crust. We've already used salt on these. Today, the only seasonings we're going to use, we're going to keep it real simple. We're going to use some garlic powder. We're going to use a pre-made barbecue rub. This one's from Killer Hogs. It's great. I recommend you check it out. And then we have some olive oil here to act as a binder to hold that rub onto the actual pork butts themselves. And then this is our base. I'll get into that in a minute. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to get these pork butts trimmed up and looking pretty. And then we're going to season them up and get them on the heat. Alright, so the first thing you want to do here is kind of glove up, because it's going to allow you a better grip and it's going to keep you from getting covered in pork juices. All we really want to do here, these pork shoulders are pretty well trimmed already, but what we want to do is we want to trim off anything that's hanging off, because all these bits are just going to burn. And this little pocket right here on the front of the pork butt, you kind of want to expose that because there's usually a vein in there that is going to be on most untrimmed pork shoulders. And you just kind of want to get in there and trim it out. Okay, now that we're done trimming, what we want to do is we want to season these guys up. So that's where your flavor is going to come from. Now, what I have here is just a little olive oil, and you can use in place of this, because this is really just a binder. This itself does not add anything to this dish. So you can use a popular one in barbecue is yellow mustard, or you can use vegetable oil, anything that's going to allow your coating to really stick on there. Now you just want to kind of get all the way into all the nooks and crannies, because you want your seasoning to stick everywhere. Just go all the way down to the skin line, because these are pork picnics we're dealing with. not pork butts. So you're gonna have this big hunk of skin on the back, and I'll show you why that's important when we get them on the heat. So now the trimming's all done, we're just gonna season these up. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some garlic powder. Now you don't have to go crazy here because most rubs already have garlic powder in them. I just like garlic powder. I like garlic. So I want to highlight that flavor. Now if you see any dry seasoning sitting on there, you kind of want to rub that in, because that dry seasoning most likely just going to blow off as soon as it hits the heat. Now we come in with our barbecue rub. You want to go liberal on this because this is going to create your nice outer bark. It's where 90% of your non-pork flavors are coming from. And just like it is in the name, you just want to rub it in, make sure it's sticking well. Don't be afraid to go back and add a little more oil if you're having problems sticking. Now just a word on pork picnics here. Pork picnics are the opposite end of the shoulder from the pork butt, and they usually come with this skin cap on the outside. Now for a nice color, you just want to rub that in a little bit of oil just so it doesn't burn too badly, because if you throw it on there dry, it's going to become charcoal. Now let's address smokers for just a second. What we have here is called an ugly drum smoker. I made this one myself. I'll show you how to do that in another video. But this is going to be, hands down, your best entry-level smoker. Yeah, it's a little work to make, but for the first 2 years I was barbecuing, this thing put out some of the most amazing barbecue. And I still use it for specific things over any other smoker I own. Now, if you talk to 100 different pitmasters, they will give you 100 different techniques. All I'm covering here, at least today, is the techniques that I learned that I find work best. Now, I use wood chunk. The reason I use wood chunk is because it's a slow burn and it leaves you with solid smoke, and you don't have to add wood very often, as opposed to wood chips, where not only do you need to soak them, but you also need to change them fairly often because they burn out very quickly. So we'll cover fire management another day, but today we're just going to throw our wood in and let it start smoking. Now we already have our wood on. That already smells nice. But once we get this meat on the heat and those drippings start hitting the fire, you're gonna get a smell that has your neighbors knocking on your door to see if you need any help, to see if they can get in on that barbecue. That's that barbecue life. Now, as I said, these pork picnics have this skin cap on the bottom. That's going to do on the grate is that's going to protect your meat. That's going to insulate you from direct flames when you open the lid and too much heat. That's going to keep you from overcooking the bottom. Now, as you can see, I've already inserted some temperature probes inside the pork butts. And what that's going to do is keep me apprised of my temperatures. Now, thermometers are one spot where I really think beginner barbecuers should splurge, because it's really important to be able to monitor your temps quickly and efficiently. So what I have here is a Maverick remote thermometer. What makes this one particularly cool is not only is it accurate, but it comes with this remote temp teller that I can watch from my living room and make sure everything's running smoothly out here. We're lit it up. We're gonna leave it alone. We're not gonna touch anything for a good 45 minutes to an hour. We've been on the smoke for about an hour now, and it's about time to baste. Now, basting is important because while we do want a nice outer crust, we don't want it to burn. Basting kind of rehydrates and keeps it from getting overcooked. As you see over here and here, we're already developing a nice crust, but we're a little overcooked right there, but that's no problem. We'll get to that a little bit later. Now what I have here is a really simple baste. It's apple cider vinegar, a little of the rub we used, some vegetable oil, and some water. At this point, we're just gonna baste all these surfaces, keep them nice and moist. Now, if you have one, you can also do this with a squirt gun. Just spritz it. Now, it's important that you get your lid back on as quickly as possible for two reasons. One, if you're looking, you're not cooking. Classic barbecue rule stands true. You're letting that heat out the top, it's not engulfing the meat and cooking it. Two, if you're using charcoal like I am, or really most fuels, as you let in more air, you're actually going to get up to a fire. And you don't want that. You want hot coals just releasing heat, not direct flame. Barbecuing, something that's very important is staying hydrated. Water is good for that, but beer is better. So this is my method of rapidly hydrating. Delicious. It's been about 8 hours now. We've basted several times. Just took these off the smoker. they hit the internal temperature we were looking for, which is 200 to 203 degrees, depending. These were a little tough when I checked them at 200, so we left them on until 203. Now, what we want to do is we want to let these rest for like about 20 minutes. We're just going to foil tent loosely to keep them warm without steaming. We're just going to throw some foil over top, shape it down a little, don't crimp it down. We just want to let them rest for about 20 minutes, like I said. And that's going to serve to tender them up and cool it off a little bit so we can easily pull them without burning our. That's looking good, and let me tell you, it smells amazing in here. So now we get into the fun part. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and pull out any exposed bones. Now you might want to use a paper towel, insulated glove, something like that for this, because these bones are still probably going to be kind of hot. But this is so well cooked and so tender, those bones just slide right out. Just about clean too. Got those bones there. And we got the big bone in the other end. The bone cap, apparently. Whew, that's still pretty hot. Just look how fall apart tender this is. As you see, it's fallen apart into the individual muscle groups. Giving you a nice picture. Let's go ahead and do the other one at the same time here. Bad boy up a little bit. There's one. There's two. There's three. Paper towel, that was getting a little wet. Just want to get a good grip on the ball end of this bone. And it'll pull right out once we get to it. Make sure not to leave any paper towel fragments in there. Those don't taste very nice. My dog owners out there, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that right there, or that there, is a perfect bone to give to your dog. Quick PSA. Never give cooked bones to your dog. He'll chew them, he'll snap them, and they break into fragments. We can easily choke on them, or worse. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of these bones. We don't want anything inedible on this tray because we're going to pull these right in this tray. Now, yeah, you could use a cookie sheet for this. You can do this straight on a cutting board if you have one big enough. Obviously, I'm doing 2 at once, so that's a little more difficult. But for ease and simplicity, what we're going to do is we're going to cut this up into fist-sized hunks. Almost forgot to get the skin cap out. Now, plenty of meat that's going to stay attached to that skin. So you just want to kind of flake that out. And just look how tender that is. Moist. Watch out for, especially with pork picnics like these, you want to look out for sneaky little bone fragments that break off. So you just want to scrape all the meat out of here. But you see this fat right here? You want to leave most of that behind. A little is fine because it'll help keep your meat moist as it sits, but you don't want too much. Done. If you have a dog or a cat, I recommend throwing a piece aside for them. Let that cool down. And we just go back to cutting this guy up. Cutting her up serves 2 purposes. One, it's easier. Look at that beautiful cross section, that nice smoke ring around the edge there. It's gonna make it easier to shred or pull. Yeah, look at that. 0 effort required. And now you just want to keep an eye out for really hard spots like that. Now, bark is good. You know, like this. This right here is a little overdone. We're just gonna trim that away. Take all that pork that was broken up nicely and put it in a bowl with about a cup and a half of barbecue sauce and mixed it up. You want to add a little bit at the beginning and then mix it in and see where you're at. Because you don't want over sauce, then you don't taste anything else. Now I made a lot of pulled pork here, and about 75% of this is going down to the 4-7 precinct in the Bronx tomorrow with my buddy to feed second shift. So it'd be nice to make those guys lunch.